When you hear the phrase trophy hunting, most people will think about hunters in Africa.
Get away!
It is not an activity exclusively for the wealthy.
There's just a kind of sickening sense of glory and triumphalism about killing these great animals.
Killing an innocent animal is cowardice.
People who murder animals do it because they would love to murder people.
And preserving many species of large mammals through the sale of hunting opportunities is a global trend.
The trophy element of it is what repulses
people. You need to move away from the emotional.
Trophy hunting is defined as the shooting of carefully selected animals with particular desirable characteristics. This is done for the pleasure of the hunting experience, after which the hunter takes home all or part of that animal. This usually costs money.
The term trophy, I just can't stand it. It's an old-fashioned word, very outdated, but unfortunately it's what people have been using for a long time.
What I would say straight away is I prefer not to call it trophy hunting. It is deer control. You've got to control both males and females, and obviously it's the males that have the antlers on their head, hence where the trophy bit comes from.
Trophy hunting is a sort of offshoot of culling itself.
Because it's going to be culled anyway, whether the person's paying more money than someone else to shoot it. A late middle-aged or old animal.
He's passed on his genes over a period of years, and then we might watch him for 4, 5, 6 years.
Wait until it's just starting to go over, give the younger animals a chance to come through and pass their genetics on.
That in turn allows us to get a trophy price from a client, which of course pays for the maintenance of the herd and my wages through the rest of the year. So it's a vital part of the culling process.
From my point of view, it's better that it goes on someone's wall and they can enjoy it for the rest of their lives. And maybe their kids enjoy it because they've grown up with it in the house all along. And it's a memory that, you know, gets passed on.
Come on in, Johnny, welcome. This is our shoot room on the estate here. You could call it a trophy room, I suppose, but that's not what it's about. Just memories. These are all memorabilia from people's hunting trips, stalking trips. They're not all mine. Other people shot them, Paul, my colleague. People say trophies, but I think if this was on a wall in a pub in London, these would be called decorations, wouldn't they? Not trophies.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. It just looks cool. I like them. They look amazing. This one particularly here, I remember, that is definitely not what you'd call a trophy animal. In fact, it's a perfect cull animal because it's got these spikes. It's very dangerous if it fights with others, and it can stab them. So we call these murder bucks because they will kill other deer. But this one actually, last year I went stalking with my wife for the first time in 9 years since our son was born, and we shot that one together, and that's why I've kept it, because it's a memory of that sort of outing, having our boy not with us for a change. Yeah. So we actually got to do some stuff on our own, and we decided to go stalking, a nice walk in the woods. So not every trophy is a trophy. I think they're more memories. You know, here's another one that's deformed. That's obviously broken at some point. So these skulls aren't just about the memory. You can also learn from them. You can learn about the development of the deer. You can learn about how they grow, what speed, and what's come from different areas.
The relationship between deer and humans has not always been the same. To understand where we are now, you have to understand where we've been.
The term deer management is a relatively new one in the UK. We used to talk about deer stalking, and prior to that, it was killing deer. The story basically starts in the early 1950s.
The land of England, the rolling countryside, make their pastoral pattern.
After the Second World War, where an agricultural change within the UK, as a development of the war, where we needed the ability to feed more people, we still had rationing. So more land was turned over to agriculture, tractors were invented. Therefore, the habitat that deer lived in became more based around where humans were trying to farm, as opposed to where deer lived. So that brought deer into conflict with humans, and deer drives were organised. And we're talking 1950 right through to the mid-60s here. And when I say a deer drive, it would be a group of local farmers with shotguns driving deer out of copses, hedges and woods and shooting them with shotguns. And it was unregulated, unselective. Even modern hunters, it'd be unacceptable. As we moved through the 60s and into the 70s, a more modern, forward-thinking type of hunter, deer stalker, emerged, and these were ones who saw the value of deer and that didn't need eradicating. Deer have got value to all of us. To the general public, they're nice to look at. To certain parts of forestry and farming, they can actually do some good. They don't only do bad. Deer became more interesting to the British sportsman, the British rural sportsman. And they became, in some areas, an animal that respect was brought back to, and an animal that was revered, as opposed to one that we wanted to remove. Some of this was brought through by more close contact with our European cousins, especially with the more Germanic parts of the continent, so Poland, Germany and Austria, where deer stalking was absolutely at its pinnacle in the 70s, 60s, 70s. And the respect and the management of deer was done in a very different way to we did here. It wasn't about killing and removing deer, it was about creating the healthiest population of deer you could to an acceptable level that didn't hinge on forestry and agriculture. And that theory was brought back to the UK by some hunters, by some stalkers, and they then started to try and educate and implement some of these European ideas with an island mentality where we don't have the movement of deer that they have on the continent. These things weren't vermin to be eradicated. They were actually an asset for all of us, for the whole population. So people like to go on a picnic and they like to see deer. People like to drive down the road, like to see deer from your trains, you like to see deer. We like to eat deer. The meat's a valuable asset there. But to get to the point where they become an asset, there has to be a tangible benefit for the landowner to have those species on their land. One of those tangible benefits can be for people to pay to hunt. The value was in somebody being able to come and stalk and have a day out and pit their wits against a wild animal and ultimately harvest that animal. Now, as a memento, a memory of that, the antlers of the creature would be kept, and so you could remember your hunt. And it's something that goes back to pre-Neolithic times, where it's proven that we kept parts of animals as mementos or tools. And I think that's why within our psyche we still want that memento, that trophy if you like. And if we think about it logically, to get a male deer to be a trophy animal means it's got to have matured, gone through maturity to old age to be big enough and heavy enough to be deemed a trophy animal. So it's not indiscriminate, indirect killing. It's very measured and very, very well managed to allow the best of the species to procreate.
To see how far wildlife management has come, and to see that change of relationship from agricultural pest to revered and respected animal is fascinating. To hear more on this modern approach, I travelled up to the Lake District.
Well, my name's Peter Jagger. I'm head stalker at Lonsdale and Lowther Estates here in the North Lakes. We cover a very big area. We have a lot of upland ground, wild red deer, and we cover a large amount of forestry in the bottom which we control, roe deer. The red deer that we have are thought to be the only pure gene red deer herd left in England. which is something really special, and they are special, and they need looking after. It's not only my job, but it's a huge privilege to be out here and just see a magnificent animal and be a part of it, be a part of their environment, you know, where they've been for thousands of years. It's a vital part of the culling process that we can take a limited amount of trophy heads off, and it is a very limited number compared to the overall picture of the cull, but it brings in vital revenue that helps with the work of the overall maintenance of the herd through the rest of the year. We have everybody from father will buy it for a young man's 21st. At the other end we'll have them that are retiring from stalking, have never shot a good stag. It'll often be their last stag. There's a memory of what they've done for years and years but have never taken a trophy stag. You can't just buy it. You have to have a lot of luck on your side to achieve it as well, and nature provides that luck now and again. The idea of trophy hunting perfectly dovetails with the overall management of the deer's health. The good genes that are passed on from year to year and generation to generation might not be preserved so well to keep the overall population in such good health. That's the most important thing, not killing a trophy, but it's the good genes that enable the deer's good health in the herds.
My name's Robert Benson and I'm chairman of the North Lakes Red Deer Group. This particular area has been subject to agri-environment schemes of one sort or another to try and help support the Lake District farmers. We've reached a situation now where we've got to find that balance between deer and sheep, and we've got to satisfy in particular Natural England, who are very, very keen to see what I would call a massive reduction in red deer numbers. Deer generally throughout the UK at the moment are in sort of sometimes seen almost as pests. We've worked for a very, very long time to try and improve the quality of the deer in this neck of the woods, and it really, you know, breaks my heart to see the pressure that we, the stalkers operating here and so on, are being put under to reduce deer numbers well below the carrying capacity of the ground. They've got a fixation on vegetation. They want more and more vegetation, whatever it is may be growing. They talk about carbon storage and, you know, all those sort of bits and pieces, and they seem to see deer as the damagers. Of course, deer have got to eat, and if you go as far as trying to plant trees in areas like this, it's like sticking a lollipop up on the hill. What the hell are the deer going to do? They spot a tree in this sort of environment and they're going to go and eat it. It's bound to happen. So if you're going to plant trees in an area like this, right tree, right place, but you've got to protect it properly. And it really, you know, breaks my heart to see what has been going on up here.
I think the thing people don't like is the fact that you enjoy it. But I can't get my head around why somebody would argue against sustainable, proper animal welfare management as opposed to killing deer indiscriminately because there might be too many. I don't understand where the animal welfare comes in to it. If you're going to manage a herd and you're going to manage it selectively, that's surely far better for a species, any species, than indiscriminate management. I.e., if you look at poaching in Africa, indiscriminate management, that's eradication. Management is just that. It is selective and properly controlled.
If you're not from the hunting background or you're not interested in it, it must seem strange that anybody would want to go out and shoot an animal, let alone hang one on the wall. But it's just something that, you know, is an essential part of managing wildlife in the countryside. And we have to remember that deer management isn't funded by the government at all. It's all funded by private enterprise or private landowners. So taking people out to shoot a trophy which has a higher value than a normal cull animal is obviously a sensible business decision to help pay for your employee. If tomorrow the government said you can't charge people to come hunting commercially, or you can't do trophy hunting in the UK, then from the animals' point of view, it's only ever going to get worse, because the animals are going to get shot harder because they have no value. The damage they're doing to the agriculture and the habitat wouldn't be compensated at all. Therefore, the highly likelihood is that, you know, everyone would be going out and shooting a lot more deer, and those individual deer would be shot a lot earlier in their lifetime as well. Trophy hunters definitely respect the animals that they shoot. Obviously, part of that is they may want to have a picture taken with them. Unfortunately, thanks to the world we live in and social media, those pictures obviously get out there into the public domain, and that obviously looks bad if you don't really understand what you're looking at. But I would say that most British trophy hunters, or the vast majority of British trophy hunters, are very respectful. The pictures they take tend to be very respectful. And it's like all things in life, there's always a few rotten apples that get a bit carried away in the moment and maybe take a slightly less tasteful picture, and that does us all harm.
Can trophy hunting benefit wildlife? Well-regulated trophy hunting, of course, can benefit wildlife, and does across the length and breadth of the UK. What happens to the meat from these culled male animals? Well, it's eaten or sold. Nothing ever goes to waste. Is trophy hunting poaching? Worldwide, these two things are not the same. A good hunter respects his quarry. A poacher does not. The bottom line here is that everybody I've met over the course of this documentary, and over the course of my own personal hunting career, loves deer. They have a deep fascination and deep connection with those animals which they hunt. Much deeper than anybody who doesn't hunt could understand. Many years ago, these deer were viewed as pests and treated as such. Nowadays, they are revered, they are loved by many.